you're up.
Center regrets temporarily something's come up, but she'll join from Zoom.
So it says we are
Live? Okay, thank you. I'd like to call this meeting to order, the meeting of the Waste Management Steering Committee. Welcome to everyone. First item is disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. See no one nodding, so discussion, review of waste management program. Is that Jeff going to take that?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Brooks, you're on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to, I've got a PowerPoint presentation that I'll run everyone through here. I'll see if I can get my screen shared with everybody so everyone can follow along here. So. Okay, is everybody able to see that?
yes.
Yes.
Okay, so what I wanted to do was provide a report or presentation based on our solid waste collection costs. So when I say collection costs, that means the curb to curb pickup of solid waste and recycling. And the reason that we want to just compare the collection is so that we can compare the costs that we're paying for bringing that program in-house and to be done by our own staff. Compare that to what we were previously paying Mterra and what other municipalities have recently got into contract with other contractors for. So to start off here, I'll just go through a brief timeline of what got us to where we're at right now. So previously, we were under contract with Mterra to provide the municipality with garbage collection as well as recycling collection. In January of 2019, Central Elgin forms a solid waste steering committee and approves a 2-year contract extension with Mterra. So Mterra's contract was set to expire on May 31st of 2019. So by providing a 2-year extension on that existing contract, that would allow the steering committee to be formed, evaluate the future service delivery of the program, and implement any changes if the steering committee wished to do so. So Mterra agreed at that time to extend the contract until May of 2021, provided that they receive a 12% increase on top of their 2019 rates that we were already paying them. So that was agreed upon in January of 2019. February of 2019, the steering committee undertook public consultations with residents to discuss future service delivery and options such as green bin, biweekly collection of garbage, etc. On March 15th of 2019, Mterra gave Central Elgin notice that it no longer wished to pursue the 2-year extension, and they cited the inability to source reliable equipment and equipment issues with their existing contract, and that they were unable to continue on. So picking up the pieces from that information, on March 17th, Central Elgin Council opts to bring the collection of solid waste and recycling in-house on an interim basis. The program would remain the same with garbage tags and weekly collection of garbage and recycling. So that decision was made March 17th. That only left 2.5 months to implement the new system. So on May 13th of 2020, Central Elgin enters into an agreement with Big Truck Rental to rent a rear loader waste truck on a 2-year lease, and 2 side loading 2-stream trucks were purchased from Joe Johnson Equipment. 4 full-time unionized staff were also hired to staff the program. On June 3rd of 2019, within 2.5 months, Central Elgin assumes the solid waste and recycling collection, and with the 4 full-time staff. In September of 2019, a 5th union staff member is hired to take on lead hand duties and provide additional support to the department. And then in January of 2020, the solid waste schedule changes from a 5-day to a 4-day schedule. So that's how we got here. So the Central Elgin Waste Program, what do we do and how do we do it? So going over the equipment again, we have 2 side load 2-stream trucks, which were purchased for a price of $412,000 a piece, and that was paid for through the equipment replacement reserve. A rear load truck is being leased on a 2-year term for a cost of $7,684 per month, and that lease expires in May of 2021. Staffing. So the solid waste department consists of 5 full-time unionized employees who deliver the service. We also get some support from other departments during vacation time, sick time, things like that. The unionized employees are supervised by the operations and assistant operations superintendent with support from the infrastructure and community services department. So service delivery. Central Elgin uses bag tags to assist in controlling the amount of waste that goes to landfill. In 2020, residential properties received 61 tags, commercial properties received 140 tags, and farms received 29 tags. Over the last number of years, council has reduced the number of tags given out by 5% each year, with the goal of ultimately getting to 52 or 1 tag per week per residential property. As I said before, garbage and recycling is currently collected weekly, and each garbage tag or each garbage bag must be tagged with a bag tag. In 2020, approximately 6,200 households have weekly garbage collection services provided. Garbage is trucked to Green Lane landfill owned by the City of Toronto, and recycling is trucked to the Material Recovery Facility, or MRF, owned by the City of London. Leaf and yard waste is also collected over 4 weeks in both the spring and the fall. So since bringing the service in-house, we have seen a vast improvement on service delivery. Since being brought in-house, staff have not missed a collection day. There have been some one-off issues once the new staff had come in and we implemented the program early in June of 2019. For instance, there were a couple instances of where a street was missed on a collection route. But since that time, those issues have been corrected. With the previous contractor we had, particularly in late 2018 and early 2019, collection days the contractor was often 1 to 3 days behind on the collection schedule due to equipment issues, things like that. So quite often we would get a phone call in the office from a resident in a certain area saying, when's my garbage going to be collected? We'd ask them to put it out that day, and we weren't sure if the garbage was going to be collected that day, because sometimes they're, like I said, often 1 to 3 days behind. So often residents would be putting out their garbage 2 or 3 days a week in order to get that garbage collected. So while we don't collect actual data on the number of complaints that we receive, staff have noticed a significant reduction in phone calls, service requests, as well as Facebook activity since bringing the service in-house. Okay, so what does a solid waste collection program cost? And again, I want to stress this only includes costs for the collection. It doesn't include tipping fees, other contracted services, that sort of thing. It's only for staff, equipment to pick up the garbage and recycling curbside and deliver it to either the landfill or the MRF. So notes on the numbers. So if we go, the total cost of the collection program in 2020 was budgeted at $836,500. That equates to $134.94 per household based on 6,200 households being collected in 2020. It is likely that we will be under budget on the collection program in 2020. And then I'm about to share a spreadsheet with you. The cost for leaf and yard waste is built into the costs in the spreadsheet here to follow. Okay, so these are the numbers that Central Elgin has budgeted. It also shows year-to-date numbers down the right-hand side, as well as projected numbers based on the year-to-date. So the projected numbers would suggest what the year-end number will be. I wouldn't give too much credence to the projected numbers right now, as there may be some staff time missing from some of these. There may be some equipment charges missing, as well as we haven't done spring and yard waste pickup yet. Or we've done spring, but we haven't done the fall yard waste pickup.
Yeah, do you think you could blow that up just slightly? I'm just straining to see the numbers.
Okay, let's see.
And that's perfect. No, that's fine.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay. So I'll just run through each of these numbers here. So union salaries, which would include the 5 operators, we've budgeted $160,000 for solid waste, as well as $160,000 for waste diversion or recycling. So our year-to-date on those is $125,000 and $62,000. We're projected to be under budget. We may be slightly higher than what is projected there, but we should remain under budget. And then there's some minor ones here, such as clothing allowance. We should be close to budgeted there. Each of the operators gets a clothing allowance, such as work boots, safety clothing, that sort of thing. So that's what makes up that cost. Parts and supplies. That would include some of the maintenance items, such as tires and brakes. The trucks are likely to go through 3 sets of brakes and 2.5 sets of tires per year. So our year-to-date on that one is $33,000, projected to be 42. I think it's going to be a little bit higher than 42,000 because we may be missing some invoices or haven't received invoices yet for work that's been done, but we should be well under the $120,000 that's been budgeted. And we've got health and safety supplies. That's pretty self-explanatory. The truck rental, so that is for the rental of the rear packer truck. So based on that cost, we've budgeted $93,000, and we'll be just under that with our monthly rental. Next on the spreadsheet here is equipment charges. So when we purchase vehicles, we'll typically purchase those vehicles out of the equipment replacement reserve. And what we'll do is we'll purchase those, and then we will bill an hourly fee against the time used for those trucks. So with these trucks, we bill these trucks out for each hour they're used at $72.91 an hour, and we bill that against the program. So that's what you're seeing here. So we've budgeted $300,000 for both solid waste, well, combined for solid waste and waste diversion. Our year-to-date numbers show that we're at $102,000 each. That's basically, we've put that into one fund and we've divided it by 2. So our projected costs based on year-to-date would be $132,000. Again, I would stress that number will likely go up because we haven't done the fall leaf and yard waste pickup. So like I said earlier, based on our budgeted numbers of $836,650, divide that out by the 6,200 households, that gives a cost per household of $134.94. I've also included a number here, but again, I wouldn't give that much credence because that number is likely to go up with the year-end costs. So is there any questions on those numbers that I presented there?
Bill, go ahead.
I just wondered, Jeff, with the one used truck that we leased, is that going to be coming up for the one extra truck that we have? Is that going to be coming up as a purchase, or do we continue just on with that truck, and will it last very much into the future?
So with the truck that we've leased, it's on a 2-year lease. So that truck will be returned on in May of 2021. And at that time, I'm suggesting that we look at leasing another truck. And the reason for that is I took a report to council back in June, I believe it was, about the Blue Box transition program. And we're looking to transition to that program on January 1st of 2023, but we really don't know what that program is going to look like right now. So I wouldn't want to tie us down with a new purchase of a truck when we don't know what our whole recycling program is going to look like. And I'll also touch on what we're going to do with that truck a little later in the presentation here, as far as renewing the rental on it.
Colleen, go ahead.
Just wondered, yes, thank you. I just wondered if you have any benchmarks as far as cost per household at the 135 that you're showing there. Is that good or bad in comparison to other municipalities?
So I'm about to get into that. The next two slides are comparatives between Mterra as well as a contract that Temps Center recently entered into with Miller.
Okay.
Anything else, or shall I move on?
Move on, Jeff.
Okay. Okay, so how does our program compare with Mterra? So this is a comparison of what Mterra's cost would have been to the municipality this year, should the municipality have actually been able to extend that contract. So that's based on the 2019 prices, as well as the 12% increase in costs that they had asked for. So we can see here, these are unit rates from the contract. So they're $62.71 per pickup of solid waste, $57.94 for pickup of recycling, and their yard waste costs were $30.91 at 3,300 pickups for $101.99.67. So, like I said, these are the increased costs that would have been formed part of that extension. So the Mterra price cost per household is $137.11, and a total of $850,078.33. So Mterra's price is actually $2.17 higher per household over the course of the year compared to what Central Elgin's budgeted cost in 2020 is. And like I said earlier, we would expect that we will be under budget. So we are outperforming our previous contract, both in service delivery as well as cost. So as you can see, the cost there is roughly total $13,000 less than Central Elgin's. over the course of the year.
Jeff, Councillor Fair has a question.
Sure.
I see it's showing 850,000. I think that when you say about the penalties, I think the penalties from Mterra that they owed us in 2019 was 58,000. So, you know, we could have had a possible reduction, but I think the 58,000 penalty caused a lot more aggravation than it was worth for the municipality. But, you know, so I think they probably would have cost us around 800,000 last year. Did we collect that 58,000 or reduce our payments by that?
Yeah, so their monthly invoices would come with a reduction based on the penalties that they incurred over the month. So there were some significant penalties in that area of late 2018, 2019, and that was deducted from their invoices. So I did forget to mention that the cost that I'm showing you from Mterra assumes that there are no penalties and that they are collecting every day.
Colleen has a question.
Just more of a comment, I guess. So your note there says it includes HST. Did the budget of 836,650 for the current methodology, does that include HST as well?
Yes, it does.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, moving on to the next one. How does our program compare with Miller's contract with Temps Center? So I had a brief look at Temps Center contract prices. They went out for proposal in 2019, I believe it was, and they landed on Miller for curbside collection of solid waste and recycling. So as you can see here, the totals for solid waste collection were 472,426, recycling 465, leaf and yard waste. So I've put in 15,000 for the cost of leaf and yard waste. And actually I should backtrack here. So these numbers that I'm showing you here are basically taking the prices that were submitted to Temps Center from Miller and placing them under the same circumstances as Central Ogden. There are approximately 1,000 less households to pick up in Temps Center, where in Central Ogden we have 62. They have around 5,150 in Temps Center. So I've prorated it based on the number of households that we have in Central Ogden. So some of the rates have changed, but it's all based on the same pricing that was submitted to Temps Center. So I've just shown you the solid waste and recycling. The leaf and yard waste was $15,000, but that only includes 1 week of pickup in the fall. So if you were to prorate that over the 8 weeks that Central Ogden provides, it would be much higher. But for comparison's sake, I just use the $15,000 that Temps Center had because it's difficult to prorate that cost over what Central Ogden does for leaf and yard waste, and I didn't want to mislead anybody. So we're just leaving that $15,000 in. So Miller's cost with Central Ogden's program would cost Central Ogden $953,687 total, which translates to a cost per household of $153.82. Some of the differences between Temps Center is they only pick up garbage 41 weeks per year, as opposed to Central Ogden at 52. And when you total it up, Central Ogden's program is $18.88 cheaper per household, and a total of $117,037 in total cost per year compared to what we're paying. Okay, are there any questions on the two comparisons that I've just shared?
Not seeing any, Jeff.
Okay. So the bottom line is, I guess we're doing well. We're outperforming our previous contractor in both cost and service delivery. So I guess the next steps with the solid waste program. I'm recommending that we keep the solid waste program in-house until it becomes certain what will happen with the blue box transition program. With the report I took back in the fall in regards to the blue box transition, council did state that they wish to keep the program in-house so long as the blue box could be fully funded by the producers. So that's what we're hoping to do. But until we know for sure, we'd like to keep the program in-house. Depending on how the blue box transition goes, the service may or may not stay in-house. As little is known of how the transition will play out. A question I have for the committee and council is, are there any interest in new additions to the program? One program I would suggest that council may wish to look at is the introduction of a cart system for solid waste or garbage collection. With an initial investment of around $325,000, we could move to a cart system for garbage collection and do away with the bag tags. If the committee is interested, staff can report back with more details. The benefit of going to a cart system versus the bag tags would be the program can be operated as a user pay system. So for example, some other municipalities have introduced a program where residents can choose between 3 different sizes of garbage carts. So you can pay, for example, $100 for a small cart, $110 for a medium-sized cart, and $120 for a larger cart. And that still helps promote recycling by making it cheaper to have a smaller cart. And then if you're going to produce more garbage, then you'll pay accordingly. Some of the other benefits would be the administrative costs of issuing the garbage tags and keeping up with the garbage tags, as well as policing the garbage tags. The staffing level of the solid waste department could be reduced by 1 or 2 operators. And with the cart system, that would mean we would go to a side loading 2-stream truck, a side loading truck to collect the garbage. So it would have a mechanical arm that would go curbside, pick up the garbage cart and empty it into the truck without the operator having to leave the truck. So where we're doing garbage collection now with 2 operators, we would get away with it with just 1 operator. This would also lead to less WSIB claims, injuries, those sorts of things, which we have dealt with. Another consideration with the cart system is, I mentioned earlier, we have a 2-year lease on the rear loader truck, which expires in May of 2021. If council wishes to explore a cart system, we would need to make that decision likely by the end of 2020 in order to, when we go back to lease the truck, make sure we're leasing the right truck that is available, that's able to pick up the carts and a side loader, and then we do away with the rear loading truck. And like I said, that decision will need to be made by the end of this year, maybe at the latest January of 2021, in order to make sure that truck is available for us in June of 2021. And then something else council may wish to consider, and it has been discussed before, were some different options for service delivery. For example, the introduction of a green bin program or an organics program that would help to try and get Central Elgin up to the Ontario target of a 60% diversion rate. And there are options for that where it could be urban only, urban and rural. There's lots of the different ways to implement a program like that. So that's what I have. Are there any further questions that I can help the committee out with?
Fiona,
Go ahead, Fiona.
thank you. Nobody's more excited about seeing the CART program come than myself. My only question is, with us being uncertain with what the Blue Box transition program is going to be, if we are to commit those funds to the CART system, are we sure we won't be losing out?
I guess my response to that would be, with the recycling, it's only the Blue Box transition that is really in question. So at this time, I'm not recommending that we go to a CART system for the recyclables because we don't know what the future of that program holds. I'm just suggesting that we go to a CART system, that the committee may wish to explore a CART system for garbage collection only at this point. And then if further down the road, the collection system does remain in-house and fully funded by the producers, then maybe at that time we could look at a CART system for the recyclables as well.
Okay.
Mayor Martin has a question.
Okay, I'm sorry. Don, did you want to speak first?
Go ahead, Don.
In terms of the CART system, I was going to indicate that there seems to be a trend towards municipalities going to the CART system. City of Toronto being the biggest municipalities had a CART system for a number of years, obviously very urban. At the other extreme, Township of Adelaide, Metcalfe and Middlesex County, they've gone to a CART system in the springtime. A couple of other neighboring municipalities that have gone to CART systems are municipality of Southwest Middlesex in Middlesex, and the Township of Warwick and Lambton have all gone to a CART system for the waste collection, and with user fees attached to those particular services, so that the cost either in total or partially comes off the property tax bill, and then there's a user fee, and there's options for the size of the cart. So for a cart that may handle 2 bags of garbage, 2 carts that can handle 4 and 6, and the annual user fee goes up with the size of that cart. So there are options for the ratepayer based on the amount of garbage they're generating, but that certainly seems to be the trend that municipalities are going. And those, examples of ones that have switched this year are all, rural or urban rural, but certainly smaller municipalities in Central Elgin.
Mayor Martin.
Yeah, Mike, when you mentioned the carts, Jeff, the 100, 110, 120, to me, that's not enough of a differentiation to encourage people if they don't use that. That's just my thought, that I would make that a wider spread. If they want to put in a lot of garbage, they should be paying for a lot more for the larger cart. The other thing I was thinking about too, was when we looked at this, we were going to lease all the trucks. And then we found we couldn't lease the side loaders because there were none available at that time. And that's why we purchased the ones that we did. Is there any guarantee that we can lease a side loader if we come to that?
To answer your questions, Mayor Martin, I guess I'll touch on the carts first. I was just throwing numbers out there for comparison. I haven't dug deep enough into this to suggest what the actual cost for the carts would be. And that's an option council may wish to consider, is to charge more heavily for the larger carts and less so for the smaller carts. The lease of the side loading truck, I have confirmed with Big Truck Rental that we would be able to lease a side loading truck. Lloyd may be able to speak to this better than I can, but I'm guessing that the issue is likely the quick turnaround time. We only had 2.5 months to get the program in order when Mterra canceled the contract extension with us, and that may be what the issue was.
Just one follow-up, Jeff, just for a sec, is now the cart is a yearly charge. That's my understanding. They pay so much once a year.
That's likely the road that we would suggest we take, is a yearly cost that would be added to the residents' taxes.
The reason I'm asking that is I only put garbage out once every 2 months at the most. So even a small cart would only be used 6 times a year for me, or 4 times a year for me. So I'm just curious, you know, how, like I'm already reduced, you know, I reduced all the garbage I can. I'm just trying to think of some incentives to have people reduce their garbage, but not throw things where it should. So it's just an idea. It's just a thought. I had also had, and I've mentioned before, concerns with carts with farmers with great long lanes, getting the carts down the lane. I can think of a farm, you know, just 2 miles from where I live that is good half mile. The house is almost half mile in from the road. That's a fair distance to try and bring a cart out because they have to wheel those by hand. There's no way of dragging them out, I suppose. Don had mentioned that some people put even out the cart right out in a shed right at the road, and then they bring their garbage bags out and put them in the cart. But that's my one issue, because we do have quite a few farms with very long lanes. Certainly, I think carts for the urban areas would be great, but I know we have to go one or the other because of the trucks.
Good. Councillor Fair for the question, and then Councillor Kravitz.
In regards to the cost, I think you said 336,000 for the bins, whatever, or carts, whatever type we use.
25.
So, given the savings of one staff and also the savings of administration of the tags and so on, I'm thinking that would probably take at least $70,000 to $100,000 off that price. So, you know, that would reduce the original setup cost quite a bit, I think. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, there may be some savings with staff. If we do go this route, there may be some incidental costs that are actually added to the program, such as maintenance on the trucks, because we'll be using the side loader. So we have to assume that we'll be performing a little bit more maintenance on the trucks with that sidearm that's lifting the carts. We'd also probably implement a fee every year to purchase a new set of bins 10 years down the road. The bins come with a 10-year warranty and would likely need to be replaced every 10 years. So we'd also be carrying a small fee for that. But without really digging into all the costs a little deeper here, it's hard to say exactly where it would compare with what we are now. I don't think we'd be paying significantly more per year if we did go this route, though.
Councillor Kravitz, comment?
Thank you. I'd like to see us explore the cart system. I think it'd be something that we should look into. And we also do have 2 arms, side loading arms that I believe we have 2 side loading arms. When we purchased our original trucks, they were removed from the trucks and they are in the yard already. Is that correct?
We do have 2 trucks that are capable of doing it. However, we are utilizing those trucks for recycling right now. So we would need to add we'd still need a 3rd truck if we did go to this. And it would still have to be a 2-stream truck.
Okay.
Don't see any further questions. Jeff, go ahead.
Okay, so that's.
Sorry. Oh,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Sorry, I couldn't unmute myself. Just a quick question, Jeff. Sorry, because I jumped into this late. My apologies. When you were back on the other slides showing the costs for our looking after waste management, and I'm sorry, can you tell me again what the annual cost was per household? The 134.
That's our cost. Based on our budgeted numbers, I would expect that will actually come down. But that's what our budgeted numbers say. I fully expect that we'll be under budget.
Okay, and that's the 134, the cost per household, 134.94 per year.
That's right.
Okay, so my only concern is that, and again, 100% behind the cart system. But in looking at the costs of the carts that other municipalities are charging, that number changes. And so I just want to be sure that if we're going to roll this out, that the ratepayer is aware, that the households are aware in the difference in that number. Am I making sense? Sorry. When I look at the car, or when I'm looking at a chart, I know this isn't our cost, so I'm only going by an example from another municipality, but their charge per cart for on an annual basis is higher than what it's costing us to look after waste management right now. So again, I still think that the cart system is the way for us to go, but I really think that the message needs to get out to the ratepayer that the difference in the cost, just so that we don't have it come back to us afterwards that they had no idea this is what we were rolling out. So that's my only concern with it. Thanks.
Okay, and it sounds like council would like to take a deeper look into the cart system. So I can prepare a report and work on this, and I'll when I report back, I'll do a full comparison to where we're at right now and what the cost per household would be if we did implement a cart system.
Mr. Leach?
One other thing the cart system combined with an annual user fee for waste management allows is that if you're offering, like we do, different services in different parts of the municipality, the urban areas right now get the yard waste pickup for 8 weeks of the year. Right now, everyone's paying for that through their property taxes, but not everyone gets that service. You can have a different user fee in different parts of the municipality. So if you're not getting the yard waste pickup, your user fee could be less. That cost could be taken out and would just be assessed against the users within the areas that are servicing it. Or if council decides, I'm not certain that you've ruled out going to like an organics program with carts, and if that was the case, and that was only being delivered to, again, the built up urban areas of the municipality, then that cost could just be part of the user fee that goes towards those properties, not all across the municipality. So that gives that flexibility to differentiate the user fee depending upon the services that are being provided to that property.
Oh, sorry. Just one question. With Dawn's, what if a person in a rural area wanted an organic waste cart? I mean, would the truck, would the truck develop routes that they would, or are they already going? Is it going to be in the same one as the garbage truck? Like, is it a two stream and the garbage and the organics would be in the same truck, or would have to be a separate truck, separate collection? And if so, would they have a totally different route than the other? That's what I'm just wondering if some, there might be some rural people who live just on a house on a small lot and they would like the organic waste collection too. I don't know.
Answer or opinion?
I think that would be something if council wanted us to take a look at the organics program and put some numbers around that. We could do that. Just off the top of my head, the problem if you're just going out to do one property and it's down the road, you have to drive 4 or 5 kilometers and it takes half an hour to go there and back for one property. Gets to be very expensive and probably not feasible. But certainly we can come back if it's the committee's wish to look at the organics program and some costs around that, or the option of just continuing to do what we do with the 8 weeks of the yard waste in spring and fall.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Two questions. So if the annual user fees on the property tax are in, does it end up being actually a net zero cost for the resident because that cost of the garbage on the other side is actually gone away, or is it incremental? That's my first question.
Well, I'll take a shot at it here. So the cost on the solid waste budget, the fees that we're showing here right now, some of them would come off because they are a user fee pro system. So it would be kind of a net zero system, somewhat similar to what the water's, how the water system is.
Don, go ahead.
So overall, I think total, it would be a net zero, but for individual property owners, it's going to vary. If you think back to your, like the newsletter that goes out with the taxes and it says how much of each tax dollar goes towards police, waste management, whatever, if you're paying a larger sum towards in taxes, you actually may see a drop potentially in the costs because, you know, if 5% of your overall taxes are going towards waste management, I'm just picking a number, then if you're paying a larger property tax amount, then that 5% is a larger amount. But for other people, it may actually be an increase too. Overall, it's a wash, but how it affects each property is going to vary depending upon the amount of property taxes they pay. It also depends how much council opts to, you know, put the cost of waste management onto the user fee and how much it leaves on the property tax system. So as an example, I circulated yesterday some information from Adelaide Metcalf with their rates, which are quite low, and I'm sure they can't be delivering the full service with those rates. So in that particular case, they have to be subsidizing part of the cost of the waste management program through property taxes and parts being paid for by the user fee. Then you look at the City of Toronto and their fees are, you know, quite high, $400 or $500 a year, reflecting, you know, the cost of the program in Toronto. So there's flexibility for council, I guess, how they design the costs and the fees or phasing them in. There's all sorts of options that council, you know, could explore if it was interested.
Chair.
Yes.
My second question was, I know Councillor Wynn asked about the transition to the supplier blue box program. Just for clarity though, is that, or do we know, even though it's for recycling, would they ever kind of come back and say, this is sort of your overall pickup schedule for both components, or would it strictly be just for recycling? So let's say, so if Central Elgin isn't able to operate like they do today, where we pick up both and the supplier is the one that kind of brings in that system, is it truly just the recycling piece, or do they have the option to do garbage and recycling? You know?
John?
I'm not aware of anything that they would be doing both garbage and recycling, that it was just the recycling piece. And we just don't know, at least we haven't seen any information further from the province that indicated how the producers are going to provide that service. You know, certainly they were given the option to not go with existing providers and existing municipalities to do it, that they could do it differently. And then that creates all the logistical problems of, you know, a blue box day that's different than a garbage day.
I think at one time we talked about putting a barcode on the bucket or whatever you want to call it. And we would actually, they could record how much the volume or the weight. So if you're putting out 50 pounds rather than 20 pounds, was that an option?
That is an option that we can have a look at. That comes along with administrative costs. for monthly billing or bi-monthly billing, similar to what we have with the water and sewer. So that adds an additional, a fairly significant cost to administer that program. Whereas if you go to a cart-based size system, it's much easier to administer.
Okay.
Just something that I think we should look at. I'd like to see in the report the green bin, that we look at that for urban areas or whatever. I think that's something we should be looking at. That will really help us reduce our garbage. I mean, that's why I have so little garbage, because I compost all my food waste, et cetera, and I don't, there's not that much stuff that's garbage anymore for me. But I really do think we should be looking at the idea of a green bin as well.
Fiona?
Go ahead, Fiona.
I agree wholeheartedly with Mayor Martin, and I think that's one of the things that we've heard from the residents the most, is them wanting to see an introduction of the green bin, particularly in the built-up areas anyways. So yes, I think that's something that we should definitely explore and see in the report as well.
If I go back from memory, when we originally formed this Waste Management Committee, I believe it was Fiona, myself, Dennis. Do we want to resurrect that, or do we want to keep it as committee of the whole? I'm thinking there's an awful lot of variables. I guess I'm looking for direction how we want to proceed to assist staff in coming up with options. Do you need us, Jeff, or do you want to just bring options back to us?
I can do either or. There is a fair amount of information to sift through to get a plan in place. So it may be worthwhile having a steering committee put forth. So I can leave it up to council on whether or not they want to do that. It may be helpful to go through the process.
Fiona?
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that I think with all the variables that I agree, I think it would be good to bring the steering committee back into it again.
Any more comments? Go ahead.
Just curious, Don, we switched it to committee of the whole. Can we just go back to the original committee?
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, in response to Mayor Martin, yes, I don't see why you can't go back to the smaller working group or smaller working steering committee. If that's council's desire, it's really up to council. It's council's decision.
Go ahead.
I'm not trying to be insulting to the committee, but I don't know how much good it does. Like we've got Jeff bearing the main weight of all the research and things. My feeling would be lean more towards Jeff, who's knowledgeable in this, putting together some information the way you've done an admirable job so far. And I think you're going to be doing the heavy lifting for the most part anyway. And then maybe if you'd come back, and then if we did continue as a committee of the whole, no one would be out. Everyone would be able to do their input. We could all add something to it, and more minds and input and thought to review the process after you've put together some of that. That would be my feeling.
I'm wide open for suggestions, so more comments?
I guess I would say, thank you, Chair. I would just say maybe let Jeff put some options together, and then if he can determine whether other options need more research, and if the steering committee would help, either that or he just says yes or no right now, one or the other. I'm okay either way.
I guess, Jeff, if you look on your calendar, you have dates that you must have decisions made. So perhaps if you keep working and when you think you need us, let us know and we'll call a meeting and take another look at it. But are you satisfied with that or do you need more direction from us?
Fair enough. I can go away and I've got a lot of homework here to do. I'll take a look at all that and we can, if it's council's desire, get back together as a committee of the whole and I'll present the information that I'm able to dig up. And if there are any changes or anything, I can always go away from the committee of the whole and explore different options as well. So I'm okay with that.
I think council can maybe pull some of our ratepayers and, you know, we're gonna get all kinds of suggestions what they would like, but we kind of have to hear from them, but I think we can kind of do our own homework that way. Go ahead, Bill.
One thing I would, I'm not against the organic. I'm just wondering if we should maybe go into not baby steps, but smaller steps, and let's focus on the waste, the solid waste management and whatever we have to do with the recycle, and maybe get a real solid grip on that and then see about phasing in the organic. I don't know if we're scattering our approach too much at this point.
Fiona?
Go ahead.
I can't speak for every ward. I can speak for Ward 5. And I've heard from a lot of residents from Ward 4. And the number one thing I've heard about our waste management is the introduction of a green bin system. So I think wholeheartedly in the reports that come up, that green bin system should be in that report fully operational so that we can look at it, because it's the thing the ratepayers have asked us for. Thank you.
Just when we held the public meetings, we did hold meeting in Port Stanley and Belmont where people came and looked at the options, et cetera, and gave us their ideas. And I did receive some concerns where some people in condos, et cetera, in Port Stanley that didn't have room for bins. They were very concerned about that. So there are some people who are, you know, not 100% in favor, but we're going to get complaints no matter what we do, no matter which way we go. But I do think I agree with Councillor Wynn that we should be at least looking at the organics and what it costs. We can make a determination that we're only going to do the bins to start with or whatever. But if Jeff can break it down as to what it's going to be costing each way, then we can determine. And I think it's important to have that information.
Dennis?
Yeah, I'd like to agree with that. And seeing the organics, I'd like to see the organics explored and looked at, and it could be as a user pay system as well, as Mr. Leach has mentioned. I think the user pay system is an ideal because a lot of the urban areas will not be in favor of an organic program, I don't believe. Where the urban built up areas, it's stronger needed in the urban areas. So I'd like to see a breakdown of costs, Jeff, on a user pay system when you're doing some of the numbers for us, please.
Are we finished or are we gonna send staff back and keep us up to date? And when they need more decisions, call a meeting?
See what Jeff thinks.
So
Yep.
You got your direction, Jeff.
Okay, I've got lots of work to do.
Thanks for the presentation.
Thanks, everyone.
Are we at the end of the meeting? Any more questions? I'll entertain a motion for adjournment. Moved by Dennis, second by Colleen. Diane, you want to call the motion?
Certainly.
Vote.
Yep, Mr. Chair, the motion reads, moved by Councillor Cravitz, seconded by Councillor Rowe, that the Waste Management Steering Committee meeting be adjourned at 4:30 PM and the next meeting be at the call of the chair.
Oh, please call the vote.
Councillor Cook?
Yes.
Councillor Cravitz?
Yes.
Councillor Fair?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks?
Yes.
Councillor Wynn?
Yes.
Councillor Rowe?
Yes.
And Mayor Martin?
yes.
The resolution carries.
We are adjourned. Thank you.